And welcome to the Patriotic Bean podcast. Today we are doing an interview with another gentleman from Texas, also another Hispanic Trump supporter. You know how we do. It's Go ahead and introduce yourself. Just name, small little backstory, and we can get into it.
All right. Well, thank you for having me on, Tino. Aram Hernandez. I'm from Waco, Texas, and pretty much short story. I'm recent conservative. As of the past 2 years, I finally realized it, and thanks to Trump, and I've been getting hated on ever since. And went against my not wanting to do a TikTok. I knew, it's probably not a good idea, but I was actually trying to impress a female that's part of the Lexit movement. And my cousin told me, you're gonna have to create a TikTok. You can't just direct message her. I was like, what? So I created one. Long story short, now I'm here.
Nice. So,
Yeah, I
so
know, right? I'm like, I can't message her and say, hi, how are you doing? I'm Aaron. Like, no, that's creepy. I was like, what?
that is the funniest way of getting into it. Got into it because of a
Yeah,
female. That's funny.
Yeah, like I was against TikTok. I was like, no, I don't want one. But he was like, no, she's pretty popular and likes it. Like you have to get a following, this and that. And he knows about this stuff. He's pretty big in the LGBT Trump conservative thing up in DFW. So I was like, okay, so what I really have to do? But I knew it was a long shot. She's pretty popular. Like, yeah. I don't have a shot, but at least I'll die. At least I tried.
Yeah. That is hilarious. Okay. So
Lottie, if you ever come to Texas, let me know. I'd love to take you out. Last try.
Oh, I'm dead. Yeah. So you're pretty much the same. I mean, you converted in the last 2 years, or found out that you were conservative in the last 2 years. I found out in 2017. Because when he was running, I believed all the hype, man. I believed all the hype that the media was putting out. He's gonna deport 3 generations back, and I was like, dude, that's my mom. Like, you ain't gonna deport my mom, boy.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
where it started to fall apart for me, where it was I was like I was so enamored with the idea that he could do something like that, deport 3 generations back. That's what got me. So I'm like, how can he do this by law? How can he do this? How can he get away with this? And so I started to look at the policy that he was putting in, the law he was putting in, and all it was saying was that they were going to enforce the standing immigration laws, and that they were only going to target high value felonies, high value people who were felons. And I'm like, that doesn't sound like 3 generations back. I'm like, that's a whole different story from they're gonna deport 3 generations. I'm like, so I started like looking, and then I'm like, oh, he doesn't want to do any of this shit. Like, all this is fake. And then I saw the tape of there were very fine people on both sides. And I'm like, what? And the whites, and then I watched the whole thing, and I'm like, and then like literally right after he says they're fine both people on both sides, he goes, and I'm not talking about the white supremacists who should be condemned and totally like gotten rid of. And I'm like, oh, they're lying. And all of it just fell apart for me. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And so, yeah. And when I found this out and stuff like that, you had to keep it low key, because then everyone will start hating you. But I started getting so tired of all my family. Like, a lot of my family members were like, oh, this and that, and then I would kind of like, oh, well, that's kind of not true. It's more like this and this. And they're like, oh, what are you, a Trump supporter? And I'm like, oh, no. But then I just finally got sick of it. Like, I got to the point I was like, you know what? Yeah, I'm gonna vote for the guy. Yeah, I'm gonna vote for the guy, and this and that. And I voted for him in the first election, but I lived in California at the time. And I knew my vote didn't count because it's California. Yeah. So I was like, the Electoral College is going for Hillary. I was like, I'm just gonna throw my vote out there. It's a Trump vote, but I didn't know much at the time about it. And then in 2000, was it? He got elected in 2016, right in like 2017, the end of that year is when all that stuff fell apart. And I started really getting into it. And then I found Jordan Peterson and Ben Shapiro and all them. As you can see, this is one of Jordan Peterson's artworks back here about the kulaks and the priests in Russia when they were executing the farmers and taking their land and stuff like that, and it caused a big old famine.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I have a lot of art around here from Jordan Peterson books.
Yeah.
But
Man, I know exactly what you're talking about, bro.
yeah, um so you've gotten a lot. How has it been coming out? Like you said, you found out in 2017. When did you really like come out in full force? Like
Oh,
finally had to show it, because like I said, I found out I found out in 20 end of 2017, and then I
mhm.
wasn't like fully open about it until like 2018. It took me like a year to be like, fuck this, like I'm out.
Yeah, no, you know what? Your story is pretty much almost identical to mine. I believe the hype in the beginning, like, oh, this asshole, and after a year goes by, I start noticing things. I'm just like, hmm. And then I think it was the summer of 2017. I forget which speech he was doing. And after that, when we were doing the thing with North Korea, they were going back
Mhm.
and forth. And I just thought it was hilarious. He was calling him Rocket Man,
Yeah, I love.
talking shit. You know what? I was like, I remember the past 8 years, we're looking like a bunch of pussies, on the world stage. Obama was apologizing for us. That's all I ever heard. How hateful we are, and that we're just a country full of racists and we're sorry, North Korea, please don't hurt us. And then Trump gets up there and he's just like, hey, don't fuck with us. And I'm like, yeah, fuck yeah. So for real, it was his moxie for me,
Mhm.
it's kind of just like, staring back at somebody like, don't fuck with me, don't fuck with my people. And I respected that, you
Mhm.
know, that he wasn't politically correct. And when he went over to the Korean Peninsula to speak at the South Korean
Mhm.
parliament or government, and pretty much, telling Kim Jong-un on his own home turf, like, hey, Fifth Fleet is halfway here. Pretty much don't fuck with us.
Mhm.
Not saying it like that, but pretty much. And
Mhm.
that's I was like, shit. So I started looking into him. And same thing like you, I went and started looking at the full press conferences of the on both sides. And then, okay, well, everybody's talking about, he wants to deport all Mexicans. And I was like, thinking just like you, like, no, you can't do that. And like, I'm against illegal immigration and also, getting people out that have overwhelmed their stay or have felonies and commit crimes. Like, I'm for that. And I started like, okay, I'm for, ending abortion, less government, lower taxes. And I started doing the history on the Democratic Party and the Republican Party, just like you, because I started to listen to Jordan Peterson, Candace Owens, Officer Tatum, all those good
Mhm.
guys, Ben Shapiro. And I was like, shit, how did I not know this about both parties? You know, like I
Yeah.
felt like I had not been lied to, but kind of just like, oh yeah, this is this, but really, I'm like, no. Like I started looking up, actual legislation, and actual like history. Like I didn't know that the first slave politicians right after the Civil War, they were Republican,
Mhm.
and that just blew my mind. And I started, back in what was it, 1895 in the North Carolina, the Democratic Party there, they got pissed because of the switch that happened in the state, and they went and started killing, black Republicans and white Republicans. And I was like, wow. And then I saw the Declaration, of white men and this and that Democratic Party, and I was like, what the fuck? And it just
Mhm.
went downhill from there. And I was like, you know what? Trump woke me up that like he's not a racist. And if I really felt that he was a racist, I wouldn't be supporting him. And then kept quiet. And then that's when the hate started coming in. One post, that text I sent you of that guy threatening me.
Mhm.
All I did, Trump in his speech, he was pretty much saying, you know, condemn hatred, this and that. We're Americans. We need to, respect each other, our different ideas, this and that. And so I was like, yeah, I like that. So I posted it, took the dog out, came back in. I saw the notifications. I see my friend that I've known my whole life. You know, he's white liberal, never had any judgment against that. And I see him cussing out my cousin online. I was like, what the fuck? So I tried calling him, you know, it's like, hey man, like, what's the problem? Like, why are you calling my cousin a bitch, this and that?
Mm.
And he started messaging all that shit, you know, hope a bunch of niggas lynch you, da da da, stomp your Republican skull in front of your cunt cousin. I was like, and that's when I was just like, all right, no more being silent,
Mhm.
treat it like this, because that really woke me up to like, the history was right, you know.
Mhm.
I see who the real racists are now. You
Yeah.
know, I was like, nah, I've been over here the whole time. I really should have been over here. Like, I'm going back home.
Yeah, yeah, and a lot of it comes from the schooling system. Like, I don't know if you've seen like our earlier podcast. Me and my buddy are talking about how the school system indoctrinates you. Like, I
Huh.
went to I went to like I said, I went to college for a clinical psychology degree, and
Mhm.
in my sociology class, they had this whole video series about why Hillary Clinton was a victim of the healthcare system, and they really have you thinking like, oh, she's just a good lady, like she's just she was just put in a bad spot, and all the rich people in big pharma like took advantage of her. And no, she's like corrupt as hell, like. So but I didn't even understand what that had to do with sociology, like.
Mhm.
Well, that had nothing to do with it, but they did a whole video course on it. And that's I realized that like in hindsight. I didn't realize what was going on at the time, but
Yeah.
and then even like in high school, like my English teachers were teaching me about how, oh, um the rich don't pay their fair share and socialism and this and that. And I'm just sitting there thinking like, man, like these people were like really trying to indoctrinate us into this liberal ideology. So I grew up thinking I was liberal, but the values of hard work were instilled, and I think they're instilled into most Hispanics.
Yeah.
Hard work and work ethic is a very important thing. Like, if you're lazy, like you're looked down upon in the family. Like,
Yeah.
get your ass up and move.
Mhm.
And so like hearing people saying that they're entitled to things, like it pisses me off. Like, it just makes me mad. But yeah, and I don't know. I think I was, because we came out with a podcast maybe almost a year ago. And I mean, when we came out and everything, and I was like, yeah, I voted for Trump and everything. My group of friends was already so small, I couldn't really lose anymore.
Yeah. I know
but
what
it's
you mean.
but it's because I spent once I got out of high school, I got out of the partying phase, and I started working on music. I used to rap. And so
Yeah.
so I was just constantly just focused on that. And so I wouldn't go to parties anymore. I wouldn't do anything but make music. And a lot of people just stopped hanging out with me, and like they got mad at me because I didn't want to go do drugs with them. And like they're like, oh, you're lame now, and you're this and I'm like, I'm trying to do something here. Like,
Yeah. Exactly.
and so and even in my music, I was pretty liberal. Like, I have a song called Dope Music from 2015, like talking shit about Trump and stuff like that before I woke up. But yeah, I was just tripping out. And so we came out. I still lost three friends. I lost three friends, and I'd known them for like 12 years, like close to that. Like, since we were like since I was like 15. And
Hmm.
I was like, well, damn, like that sucks, man. But to think that
Yeah.
you'd unfriend me for a difference of opinion,
Yeah.
and the core set of friends that I have, they vehemently disagree with me. Like, they disagree with me to their core, but they're still my friends. Like, my best friend from middle school, my best friend from second grade, like one of my best friends who I met through my best friend from middle school, like those I all keep real close. And we disagree, and we know we disagree, but we we don't let that override our friendship,
Yeah.
because they know the type of person I am, and they know I do anything for them, and I know they do anything for me. Like, I trust them with my life. and they're black. And this is back when, and my friend from middle school, this is back when my dad even was a little bit racist, because you know how, Hispanics are racist towards blacks, like the older ones. And so when I told him, and he met my friend in middle school, he goes, he's black. And I go, yeah. And he goes, all right. Like my dad kind of didn't know what to say to that. And I told my dad, I was like, Dad, it doesn't matter what color he is. He's a good friend. Like he's a good friend to me. And all throughout like our middle school into like after high school, we like have just remained good friends. And I feel like he's my brother and I trust him with everything. But we're on opposite sides of the political spectrum, And
But you
so
respect each other's opinions and views, you
mhm.
know.
Yeah, like we even had we were supposed to do a Zoom session called debating the George Floyd conviction, and
Mm,
so we ended up not doing it. I forgot he had something to do or something like that, but and then it just becomes irrelevant because the news is a constant cycle. So
yeah,
I was just like, oh well, it's kind of irrelevant now.
yeah,
but but yeah, like but we disagree, but we're still friends. Like well, those are like my small core set of friends that I still have. But yeah, I got the two. Like there was a few, like one of my homegirls, she was just like, and then like left, and I'm like, all right, like later.
yeah. Yeah, I know what you mean, man. And you know what? That's another thing that really, took me more back, on the right. I'm not even gonna call it right, more back to the conservative side.
Mhm,
All my friends, pretty predominantly left all my life. We didn't know any better, but as we've gotten older and matured, started looking at things. But it's funny, once you start doing your own due diligence and you start realizing certain things, you decide to have your own opinion and not go with the crowd like you always been. It's kind of like, oh yeah, well, like you said, it's kind of like, wow, like we've known each other for so long, like just because I decide to have my own view on things, like I'm just shunned now, like I ain't shit. I'm like,
mhm,
okay. And you're actually lucky that you just had a few. Like, man, I had like the school I grew up in, it was a predominantly white school, but I never considered it, like that, the way everyone portrayed it. You know, we still had a small percentage of blacks and Mexicans, but
mhm,
still everybody got along, man. We all kicked it with each other. Even with the schools on the other side, like university and Waco High, like we all had friends. Like there was no kind of racism or any bullshit like what's portrayed now. So I learned how to not learned how, but I could adapt to every environment. I never looked at it like, yeah, I'm gonna go hang out with the whites, the blacks, and Mexicans. Like, no, I'm friends with everybody, man.
mhm,
And it's funny after all that, and because you support Donald Trump now, you're a racist and he hates Mexicans and blacks and this and that. I'm just like, what do you mean? And
mhm,
that's when, I started really watching like Jordan Peterson and Ben and all them. And I noticed how they're breaking down certain things that I never even thought about. And so I would ask these people that, ran away from me, so to say, like, I'd want to have a conversation with them, begged and pleaded with so many of them. Like, okay, that's cool. We obviously you hate maybe me because I'm a Trump supporter now and a Republican, but like, why do you think this and that? Like, didn't want to debate them, just wanted to have a conversation.
mhm,
It's funny, once you start asking them, break down your views with facts, this and that, they
mhm.
can't do it. They run away,
Yeah.
you know?
Well, even if you ask them like logically, like just give me your logical sequence of why you believe this, and I can have respect for that. And if they can't, they get mad and they'll start
Yeah.
to just yell at you, like, and it stops being about the logical pattern that they follow in order to reach their conclusion of what they believe. And
Mhm.
well, I'm just going to character assassinate you because it's more expedient to do that, because I don't have to deal with someone whose character is flawed, or character is um like muddied with racism and all that nonsense.
Yeah,
So
I know. And they, I got a lot of, you want that white approval so bad, this and that. I'm like, what? Like,
yeah.
I don't want anybody. I don't need anybody's approval. I just need my approval. Like, what's so wrong with being a gung ho proud American? Like, I was born here. I'm third. No, third. Yeah, third generation. Like, my whole family. Like, we're proud. Like, my great grandparents, they came over. During the Mexican Civil War when all that shit was going on. but
Mm-hmm.
they came over the legal way. I seen their papers, and you know what? They one had a farm, the other one he started his own lumber business, and the exact of the American dream. You come here, you work hard, you have a family, do things right, and that keeps going on. Like the pale Latina when she was talking about, how could you can't build the wall, this and that. Like, so you think just all Hispanics here in America are here illegally, or they weren't born here?
Mm-hmm.
Like we can't be in support of a wall that keeps things from happening, such as sex trafficking of women and children. I just want
Mm-hmm.
to ask her, like, have you ever heard of a rape tree? Like, that's what I want to ask her. Like, if a wall stops that, then yeah, I'm for that. Like, I'm all for immigration, legal immigration, because if I'm a citizen of this country and I have to follow the laws, and if I don't, I get punished. It should be the same for people that are trying to come into this country. You
Mm-hmm.
know, that's why
Yeah.
I'm for the wall. I'm not saying push all the Mexicans or Hispanics out. They can't come in. No, no, no. Why can't they come and knock?
Yep.
Come
Yeah.
knock on the door. Don't sneak through the fucking window.
Yep. Yeah, and that's why I say legalizing all the people who cheated to get here just makes the people who followed the process look stupid. Like they made every meeting, they paid all their fees, they did all their paperwork, and you're going to tell them that none of that mattered.
Yeah.
None of what you did mattered. Like
Mm-hmm.
that's oh god, that angers me bad because
Yeah. I know what
yeah.
you mean. And I actually had an illegal immigrant in California. He had my social security number for
Mhm.
years and years, and I had no idea. Then it was back in 2015. I working this job around the country installing wiring, and I came back to Texas, and I was going to take this girl I was talking to at the time. I was going to meet her in Austin. I had all this money. I was like, yes. And then all of a sudden, I can't access any money. I'm like, the hell? And then went to the bank. They're like, yeah, the state of California has put a levy on your account. I was like, what? And I went to IRS and like, yeah, you haven't paid your state income tax for California since 2009. I was like, I live in Texas. And then they did the investigation. And yeah, some guy named Alberto had been using my shit. And he made more money than I did. I was looking at,
Dude.
oh hell no. Put my bank account on levy. I couldn't access any of my money for about a month until it all got resolved, and it's still kind of a nightmare. I gotta get sent codes, to make sure this is me, this and that. And I'm just like, what the fuck? And this is the last thing that pissed me off about that situation. So when it all got resolved, and I was talking to the lady from IRS on the phone, so I was like, all right, thank you for helping me. So you know where this man lives? She's like, yes, we have his address. And I was like, okay, well, can I have it? I would like to press charges,
Mhm.
call wherever in California he's at, press charges. And she said, no, we can't do that. And I was like, why? And she said, pretty much because I could show retaliation and go after him, this and that. And I was like, what?
Like,
Like,
yeah, that's exactly what I'm trying to do. He
yeah.
ruined my shit.
I mean, no, like I live in Texas. Like, no, I want to call the cops and have them go pick his ass up because I'm hundreds, thousands of miles away. Like, you know what this man just did? He committed a crime, and you're protecting him, and y'all punish me, the citizen that paid my taxes.
Mhm.
Like it made me furious. I'm not saying all illegal immigrants, do the Social Security thing, but a good amount of them do.
Yeah,
It's a
yeah.
good market thing, and that's not right. You
Hmm.
know, you're already
Yeah.
coming over illegally, and then you're going to steal my Social Security number and others. Like what if I had kids? How was I supposed to feed them that month? What if a medical emergency happened? I couldn't access that money.
Hmm. Yeah, and I mean, coming from California, like I know plenty of like even truck drivers, like they drive the big rigs and they don't have licenses, they don't have no kind of documentation. I'm like, you just ride dirty out here? Like, damn. He's
Yeah,
like, yeah. He goes, they pay us under the table so that way we can still get benefits. And
yeah,
I'm like, really? And I'm like, okay. And this is when I was working at a company in Riverside that did furniture. They moved
yeah,
furniture out there, and and he came and he would drop trailers and leave. He was a transportation guy. And so I was just a yard hauster. So I just moved the trailers around. And so I'd see him sometimes. So me and him would talk and this and that. And he goes, yeah, he goes, he goes, they pay us kind of, whatever. They only pay us like 15 an hour. He goes, but we still get benefits on the side and stuff because we're under the table. And I was like, what
Mhm.
if you do if you get pulled over? And he's like, well, that's why we always drive safe and everything, so that way we never get pulled over. And I'm like, God damn.
Yeah.
I mean, I was like, don't get me wrong, like you're traveling with risk because if you do get pulled over, it only takes that one time, but
Um,
damn.
yeah, I know. And that's another thing that kind of frustrates me about this, it's just they're able to get away with so much, but a citizen, once we get caught doing something wrong, which we should be punished, because if you break the law, this and that, yes. But this person, you're just letting this person get away with this, and that because they were escaping, the bullshit that was going on in their country. They had no
Mhm.
choice. I'm like, no, no, no. I hate that narrative. Everybody has a choice. Yes, you can leave that situation, but when you come to another country, if you just sneak across, do it the illegal way, it's just like an ongoing pattern, and they allow them to do
Mhm.
it. They don't punish them. What do you think is going to keep happening when you allow somebody to do something bad once? Like, oh,
Mhm.
well, I got away with this the first time. Why don't I keep going, with other things?
Mhm.
It's a slippery slope to me.
Yeah. Yeah. And then you mentioned earlier about the history of the Democratic Party and the Republican Party.
I was
Well,
this what I found out. I was like, wow, I cannot believe I did not know this.
yeah. So what I believe, and I've said this before, is they switched. All they did was it's still slavery. They just switched it. They switched it from physical to mental. That's all they
Hmm.
did, and
Yes.
they made sure they had the hold on it. And I believe it happened around the time that JFK was president when they passed the civil rights. When I think it was LBJ
Yeah.
passed the civil rights. Um, because if you look at the vote in the Senate, if if it was up to the Democrats, it never would have made it to the president to sign because
Yeah.
all the majority of the Democrats voted against and
Mhm.
majority of the Republicans voted for it.
Yeah.
But they look at it and say, "Oh well, LBJ signed it, and he's the one who deserves the credit, right?" So that's where the they believe the big switch happened, and
Yeah.
that's when they were able to shape the narrative, is what I believe. Because after that, he passed the Silver Cities Act, which was almost like locking the shackles,
Yeah.
right? Because it offered incentives for Black women to have more children without the father in the home.
Yeah.
And if you destroy the family unit, you destroy the culture. And if you
Hmm.
destroy the culture, you destroy the people. And
Hmm.
that's exactly what they did to the Black community, and it's what they're trying to do to the Hispanic community.
Yeah.
Because I see them pushing that more and more and more. Free stuff, welfare, free Medicare, healthcare, all that stuff for all the illegals coming in. And then, because once they get it, they owe the Democratic Party, and now you
Yeah.
have their mind enslaved.
Mhm. And that's what people don't understand. Like, nothing in life is free. You should be worried when a man, no matter what color he is, saying, hey, I'll give you free this and that, and not think that he's not going to want anything in return. Like, I learned that from a young age. Like, no, ain't nothing for free.
There's a
Someone's
cost
always
to
going
everything.
to your head that they gave you something or did you something.
Yep.
Everything given free is always expected to be paid back somehow.
Hmm.
That's why I don't understand these people. They want free healthcare, yeah, free tuition. I'm like, what? Like, there's no such thing. Like, what planet are y'all from?
Yeah.
The whole. And just like you, like, so Ben Shapiro on one of his speeches, I forget what college it was, and they were talking about the switch, and Ben was saying something about how no, no, it was Dinesh D'Souza. He was the one saying this.
Hmm.
Like, he said, let's think about this. So the Democratic Party back in the 1800s in slavery, so they had a plantation. They kept their slaves. Fed just enough. They were the ones giving them the food. They gave them housing. They separated the fathers. When they sold off the families, this, and that.
Hmm.
So let's take a look at majority of Democratic cities today, like Baltimore, and so forth. Shithole, cities, the way it's rats everywhere, trash everywhere,
Hmm.
them housing, and giving them other free stuff. It's like it's a modern day plantation. It's
Yep.
run by Democrats. And
Yep.
that blew my mind. I was like, wow, he's fucking right.
You give them just enough to survive, and they'll be good, and they'll keep having their hand out like that.
Hmm.
And oh my God, yeah, it really gets me, dude. Like, to see that, and it's funny because my girl, we had she had our first kid when she was 16. I think she was 16.
Hmm.
So she had her, and her stepmother was like, oh well, just get on welfare. And her family um kind of trapped her in a cycle almost um of constant, like, uh relying on the state like that. Like, she would just rely on welfare to come in, and she didn't work a job. And then when me and her got together, I was like, all right, well, we're gonna do this and everything, but you're gonna have to get a job. I'm working. You're gonna have to get a job, and let's do this. Like,
Yeah.
that's what's it called. And so the problem in California is we were working 60 hours a week.
Yeah.
We could not afford to move out of my parents' house.
Yeah. I know what you mean. I did some time in California working, and I was like, how did people survive out here?
And so, yeah, so 2019, we got our tax returns, and I was like, this is big enough. We got enough in the savings. We're gone. Let's go. And
Yeah.
we did. And I told my mom, I was like, Mom, I was like, thank you for all the help, but I gotta go. I can't be a bum all my life. And she's like, you're not being a bum. You're just here. And I'm like, no, like, I gotta go. And she's like, well, what if it doesn't work out? And I'm like, that's part of life, Mom. I'll figure it out.
Yeah. Like, I'm gonna make it work. I'm
Yeah,
gonna
yeah,
work.
uh, that's part of being a man, is like going out and making it work, even like just finding a way. And
Mhm.
it's so funny that when I heard Jordan Peterson say that, you go out and you slay your dragon. Like, yeah, you go out, you go on your adventure. Like, you have to, because
Yeah.
like, other than that, what else are you gonna do? Just sit at home, be useless.
Yeah, exactly. Adversity, a lot of people, they let the adversity thrown their way in life, destroy them. And, everyone believes, they're not going to get anywhere in this country because of the color of their skin and there's too much white privilege and this and that. Like, well, that's cool if you want to believe that. But if you want me to believe that I'm not going to get somewhere because of the color of my skin and that dude, his white privilege, you're pretty much, no, I'm not going to disrespect myself like that. Like, because I'm not oppressed. I don't care about if his white privilege, if that is the case. Like, no, I'm gonna work my ass off. I don't care how much adversity. Like, I welcome the adversity.
Hmm.
The more pressure the diamond. Bigger the diamond.
Yeah,
I'm a firm.
yeah, and you would only tell people you hate that
Hmm.
you can't do anything because of your color. You can't, no matter what you do, the system's stacked against you. You only
Yeah,
tell people that you'd hate, like, because then they'd be like, oh well, like, I'll never succeed. And I'm so glad my parents told me, like, you can do anything as long as you work hard enough. You can do anything. Like,
yep,
go out and do it. And
exactly.
yeah. Yeah, and so that was my mindset for a long time with making my music and stuff like that. My mom would actually get mad. She'd be like, "All right, you need to go out and do something with your friends." I'm like, "But I'm trying to do something right now, Mom." Like, I would legit be up in my room, like, creating for days on end, and no one would see me.
It is, man. It's a grind, and people just don't get it. Like, I have all these people, complaining, about
Hmm.
life and fair. Like, you could be spending all that time like doing what you're doing, in your fucking cave, write a plan out, put it in action. Like, that's what it takes, man. People just don't get it. It's a mindset, you
Yeah,
know.
no one said life was ever fair, man. But
Yeah. I
no
was,
one said that you can't do anything no matter what, though.
yeah, exactly. But it's up to you. It's not, if you want me to believe that because of this person and because of this, like, that's why I won't succeed, then I'm sorry. Respectfully, fuck you. That may be the case for you, but that's not the case for me. I'm in the greatest country in the world. Ain't
Hmm.
nothing holding me back but myself.
That's right. That's right. So, do you think that Trump is going to run in 2024?
Oh man, there's so many different crazy, different scenarios and this and that. And, he keeps saying, yeah, I think the American people are gonna be very happy, this and that. I'm like, just
Yeah.
say it, please. But I don't know if you heard the new thing. I saw it the other day. about him running for Congress in Florida in
Mhm.
next year, and then possibly taking that seat, then taking the House, Speaker of the House, impeaching Joe and Kamala, finishing out Joe's term, and then running again in 24. And I was like, that
Dude,
that good?
I think if he ran for Congress in Florida, I think he'd make it. I think he'd definitely
Yeah,
make it. Cause then
yeah.
cause then you don't have to deal with all the liberal voters. You're just dealing with that certain set of Florida voters, and they like him out there. So
Oh yeah. And you know what? Whatever the case is, like, well, I don't care what anyone says. Like, I don't think they're not paying attention to what's going on right now. Like, no, we need this man back in office now. Like, do whatever y'all got to do. Like, get him back in there. Like, y'all not understand what was going on the past 4 years, and what it's been 4 or 5 months in the Bidens. Like, we're almost we're on our way to a communist nation, you know.
yeah.
And people
Yeah,
don't.
dude.
I'm like, what?
Blowing out the spending. It's gonna get real hard economically here for a little while. It's gonna get
Yeah,
real hard on people.
yeah. And you know what? When that happens, they're like, oh, I'm like, yeah, well, told you. And like that at the beginning of my wokeism, I guess, my conservative wokeism, so to say. I
Yeah.
started researching everything from communists, the Antifa, BLM. I was calling out BLM from the get-go when it first started happening last year, really
Mhm.
getting into it. And I was just like, of course, Black Lives Matter, always, forever and always, like, always believe that.
Mhm.
But the organization, though, I started looking at the website, Destroy the Nuclear Family, LGBT Black rights, and nothing against LGBT community. I got lots of friends, but I mean, anyone who knows a traditional Black family is not really for, LGBT. You
Mhm.
know, they really don't like that. When they find out their son or daughter is gay, this and that. I'm not saying that about all, but a traditional,
Mhm.
back in the old school Black family, like they don't support those views and values. So I was like, something ain't adding up. And then I
Yeah.
started the founders of BLM, we are trained Marxists, organizers. And then I went deeper into that, and Patrice Cullors, she trained with one of the first Black communists back from the 30s. I forget
Mhm.
his name, William Patterson. And he
Mhm.
went to Moscow and trained, you
Mhm.
know? And then all of her mentors after that, I'm like, yeah, this is a part of the communism. I'm like, wow,
Mhm.
like, yes, Black Lives Matter. Yes, always. But do I think that white cops are out there just, purposely going after Blacks and Browns and killing them at will? No.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I guess I've never heard of the Bloods and Crips,
Yeah.
because
And
kill more
and
Blacks, police officers, all the time. No.
yeah, yeah. And I think that's where, like, so you don't get a whole lot of rise out of people, like out of the Hispanic community, when Hispanic gets shot by the police, because a lot of our raising, or the way we're raised, we do something stupid. A lot of it is "Ándale, pendejo, do it again," or "Bah," like it's a lot of it is, they teach us self-responsibility a lot. Like, a lot of it is, you're responsible for your actions. There are consequences to everything that you do,
Yeah.
and only you have to live with your consequences. So make good decisions.
Yeah.
And and as far, I don't know, I mean, you have the conservative, you'll have the conservative Black families who teach your children that, and that's how you have that. But you also have, the Black families who they're broken down, and the father's not there, so he's not teaching those values, and so they get they get their values from the gang culture.
Mhm.
And the gang culture is all about, shoot this, blah blah blah, to that. And then once they get caught up, or shot, oh, free my dude, or free, what's it called, like, but homeboy just did a drive by and killed two people. Like, what do you
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
You know?
I agree with you. Like, I don't want that man put away in jail because he's Black or this and that. Like, no, I want to put away because he killed somebody. Like,
Mhm.
they're just looking at the color, and you're right. They're just looking at the one color of people, to fit their narrative, and it really started blowing my mind. Like, man, this is
Mhm.
some racist ass shit from the left. Like, how are people not seeing this? I know I'm just, barely waking up to it, but I see it. Like, I felt like I had always seen it, but I didn't. I'm like, maybe. But now it's like just blatantly in my face, and I'm just like, how does nobody else see this? Like, I lost a lot of my black friends I grew up with.
Mm.
It's like they just fuck you, Trump. He hates us, and he hates. I'm like, no, like you confused, man. Like
So that's,
they lied
yeah.
to you.
So that's the crazy part is my core of friends, my solid core of friends. My two best friends are black, and
Mhm.
my best friend from second grade, she's a lesbian. Like, yeah, they're all intersectional. I mean, I do have another best friend from high school, and he's white, and but I've always had all kinds of different friends. Like, and they all know the people who are still my friends. It's because they know who I am. Like, they
Yeah.
know that, like, I'm with you, so I'm gonna ride with you. Like,
Mm.
if you're getting if you're in a fight, I'm in the fight. Like, you, like, they just know that, but we disagree. Like, we disagree,
Yeah.
but
I know
it's
I still have a small group of those as well, but it's amazing, how it went from this to
mhm,
like, wow, like y'all really think that low of me now because I have my own view of opinion. Like, I don't hate
mhm,
y'all for it. I
yeah,
don't hate anybody from the left. I disagree with them. But now it's gotten to the point like, enough of the bullshit, like
mhm,
y'all ain't gonna be treating us like this no more.
yeah,
We've been a little too nice.
yeah. Well, that's the thing. Like, I follow a page called um what is it, extremist centrists or something like that, or common sense extremists.
Mhm.
And these people are always talking about how conservatives are always just saying, well, what if the shoe was on the other foot, or what if, but never actually doing anything. Like, we always just kind of point out hypocrisy, but we never actually do anything.
Yeah.
And they're like, they say, you don't want to use the levers of power in government because you believe in a small government, but you're just leaving the vacuum open to the left, who's going to use those levers of government. So you need to start doing something. Like, you
Yeah.
want to do nothing in the name of small government, but that's not working because we're still going left and left, like further left.
Mhm.
And I think that's right, but at the same time, I don't want the government doing a whole lot.
Yeah. Like, just give me the opportunity to do something. Don't
Yeah.
but
Well,
give me
I don't want
the
them. Yeah, I don't want them enforcing my values on everybody, because
yeah,
not everyone holds my values. But the
exactly.
left wants to enforce their values on everybody.
Yeah, it's getting ridiculous, man. Like when they stopped, doing the moment of silence in the schools, and the Pledge of Allegiance, I was like, back in the 90s when I was in elementary school, I remember, every day before class, after roll call, they do the announcements, you do the Texas allegiance, and then you do the American allegiance. And then, like, what's wrong with that? Like, why
Well,
do we have
so so they still do it in my kid's school. I don't know exactly, like,
what
where in
about now
Waco.
all around the country? You hear those
Okay, yeah,
stories.
because in California, they weren't so much about that. They were kind of like, oh, like, they'd stay away from that. And like, when we came out here, they're like, yeah, we do the Pledge of Allegiance and we do the pledge to Texas. And I'm like, there's a pledge to Texas? And
Yeah.
they were like, yeah, we do the pledge to Texas. And I'm like, oh, that's pretty freaking cool.
Oh yeah,
And,
we take it serious over here. I mean, I don't think it's gotten that bad here in Texas, but I was talking to a friend of mine the other day. Her daughter, she got a local school here in Central Texas, and she was telling me some things, and I got pissed. I was like, wow, that's the first sign I've heard of that. But if that's the first sign, there's definitely more.
yeah, well, that's why we have to read our kids' curriculum. I got three
Mhm.
kids, so I have to sit there and, well, like, when we sign them up for the school, like, okay, I want to see the curriculum. I want to see what you're going to be, letting them read and stuff like that, because, like, I know it's in, like, in heavy liberal states, like, they're teaching, like, that one scandal that just went by, like, teaching the kids about the masturbation and all that stuff. Like,
Heard about
you
that?
you ever
What?
heard about that? I'll
What?
send. I have the link to the little cartoon video they play. Yeah, she was like, yeah, it's a kid, a boy, and he's like, I
What
like.
is this?
I forget I forget which state. It's in the liberal state though, and I think it's New York. It's New
Is it for
York.
elementary school or like middle
Yeah,
school?
yeah, like elementary kids.
Oh
Yeah,
my God.
and it's not even like sixth or seventh grade elementary kids. It's like second and I think it was a second grade class.
It, and that's my other big problem too. I got nothing but love for the LGBT community, but I don't like the pushing the sexuality aspect on kids. Like, no, let them just be kids. If they
Mhm.
want to decide that they're gay, once they get older at 18, this and that, and their minds have fully developed and everything, cool. But they're just kids. Their minds are not fully developed, and they may be confused on something right now, and you're gonna push something else into them that they don't even need to worry about. They're just innocent, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, their life already gets topsy turvy as soon as they hit puberty, so they don't need any more chaos thrown into the mix.
Yeah, just let them go outside, and play ball or something, on the playground. They don't need to be worried about if they're a male and really want to be female, or if they're maybe like other men, or women are like other women, and their pronouns want to be changed to "zer" or "z" or whatever the fuck it is. Like, no, that's not what kids need to be worried about.
Yeah,
There's no
yeah,
nothing.
that's one
Yeah,
thing. Yeah, and that's one thing I'm going to tell my kids is what, like, once they come of age, like, I'm not going to care if you're lesbian. I don't care.
yeah,
But
that's fine.
we're not going to play the pronoun game. We're not doing that. Like, we're we're not doing the crazy shit.
Yeah,
Like, I love you regardless. You're my child, but we're not playing dumb games. And
yeah.
and we have like reading hour. Like, I'll read them. I've been reading to them George Orwell's 1984.
I'm just now brushing up on that.
Okay, yeah, that one about it's basically about communism and the double
Mhm.
speak and all this, and I'm gonna start reading to them Animal Farm because that one's a little bit more simplistic and more in
Yeah.
their range of understanding. But yeah, I got to teach them early because I'm not having the schools indoctrinate them like that, like I was indoctrinated.
Yeah, and I understand. You know what? I commend you on that. I got a lot of respect because they're teaching our kids to hate this country, and it doesn't make sense. And I was reading something the other day, and it actually has been starting since the 50s, after the first three attempts of the communism takeover here.
Hmm.
It started right after World War I, actually in I believe it was Minnesota. All the vets were coming back. They couldn't find jobs, and they started rioting. But back then, they were like, "No, we're gonna shut that shit down." You
Hmm.
know, so it's kind of like what was going on today, but no, they shut that shit down. Like, nah. But then
Hmm.
as it kept going on, the Russians, they started realizing, how can we get them? It didn't work with the whites. Let's go after the blacks. It's like, yeah, we can. Right. So they started recruiting them. They got William Patterson and a few other people, flew them to Moscow, trained them, told them like, yeah, this is what you need to do. Da, da, da. Came back. They were trained Marxists and protesters and organizers. But William Patterson, he actually woke up. He found out the truth.
Hmm.
And after that, it went on a few more times. And they're like, all right, now we need to get in the schools. And for the past 20 years, it's gotten real bad. Like, they've infiltrated elementary, high
Yep.
school education. And I'm just like, wow, that makes sense.
Hmm.
Because
Yeah.
think about it,
Yeah.
why do they want free education? You know,
Yeah.
so they,
Yeah.
yeah. So you go there, but you have to, it's free. So you're going to learn what we're going to teach you. We're going to teach you communism.
Hmm.
And but you have no say in it because it's free.
Yeah. Yeah. And all you can do is either send your kids to charter schools or send them to private schools. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, that's the that's why I'm teaching them. So, I teach them, just follow the logical pattern. Don't get sucked into emotion. If you get sucked into emotion, things can get very dangerous very fast. And
Yeah.
yes, when people would say, "Oh, well," I said, "Well, facts don't care about your feelings."
Yeah. They really
And they
don't.
say, "Well, yeah, but you can't explain logically to people who are emotional because they're not in a logical state." I'm like, "Yes, I understand that, but if you're not in a logical state and you're not in a clear thinking state, people die." Like, if you think about in critical situations, if you're not clear headed and you're in emotional state, people will die. Mistakes will be made, and sometimes those are irreversible mistakes. So you can't do that. You can't just let your emotions run wild.
Yeah.
Like, you can have emotion, you can be empathetic and sympathetic to people, but you also have to be grounded in logic.
Yeah. I hear what you're saying. That's kind of the stuff I learned in school, in a health and safety situation. The first thing to do is, go back on your training. You don't know that's a big fire. Do not rush in. No, tell everybody to get back. assess the situation, stay calm. And I think a lot of people, just like you said, they're quick with the emotion. Then the Democrats, they want to go with mental health. And I'm like, yes, everybody has some kind of form of mental health that they're battling, but to really indoctrinate that and blow it up, like, no, you're not doing anything for these people. Like, I have ADHD. And so my whole life I was told I was never going to be able to do shit. I'm not normal. We're just going to fuck you up on medications and this and that. And I actually woke up from that when I started back school in 18. I was like, I'm not going to take any meds. I'm doing this on, I can do this,
Mm-hmm.
And no, I don't have no mental health problem. My ADHD is my strength, not my demise. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? And that's what everybody needs to do with that. Stop going to the professionals and letting them tell you how fucked up you are and that you have a mental health problem, then believe the politicians that they're going to do something for you. No, go learn about you by yourself and decide what you need to do, not to fix it, because no one's perfect, but
Yeah.
what you do to make progress, progress, not
Mm-hmm.
perfection.
Well, yeah. But a lot of that goes to the teaching of you're a victim, So if you have a mental health problems, oh, well, it victimizes me and therefore I am the way that I am, rather than saying, okay, I have this problem, but how can I work around it or how can I use it to my advantage? Like,
Yeah, I know
I mean,
exactly what you mean. And I didn't have that. I was just told pretty much, you ain't shit. There's nothing you can do, and I just
mhm.
believed it because I was a kid. I didn't know any better. But
Yeah.
now as I've matured, like I think back about it, I'm like, shit, like think about certain teachers, certain professionals that were supposed to help me. I'm like, no, like they didn't do that. They didn't make me feel like that. And it's my fault because I let myself believe, what they were telling me, but I was just a kid. But now it's kind of like, no, I'm not gonna believe in all that. I can do anything.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't know. I've never been diagnosed with ADHD, but I have an attention span problem. That's why I dropped out of college, because I told my parents, I was like, I'm not wasting your money. If I'm gonna go waste money at college, I'll waste my own money. And so I
Yeah,
went to work. I went to work, but I have an attention span problem. But I also believe that has a lot to do with the advantage that I have. I can speed read, and I can take what's needed out of the reading. I don't know what it is. Like, my mom seen me do this because she took some college classes with me. She just got her master's degree last
that's
year. And so but she went to college with me, like that was like 10 years ago. But she went with me, and she's like, you haven't studied at all this week, because we took a business two or something like that. And she goes, you haven't studied at all. And I go, oh, I'm cool. I'm good. And like 10 minutes before class, because I can retain this information for about 3 days and then I lose it. So like 10 minutes before class, I just flipped through the chapter and I was like, boom, boom, boom. Okay, boom. I was like, all right, I'm ready. And she's like, okay, we'll see what happens. And we both took the test and we both got 96%. Like, we both got the exact same grade. And she's like, how do you do that? I was like, I can just see the information that I need. I don't know what it is about it, or how my brain works that way, but I can just see the information. I catch the word, and then I'll catch the phrase, and then that's the answer. Okay, boom. And I pull it and I can hold it. I go, but I can only do that like right before the test. I was like, if I do that a week before, I'll lose the information. I can only hold it for about 3 days.
yeah,
And she would just be like, oh my gosh, like that's freaking weird. And then I got really good at being social, because when I was younger, I was like real antisocial. I didn't know how to relate to kids, and I was real awkward. I was a real awkward kid. But through high school, I somehow managed to become a very social person. And
yeah,
then we had another class for public speaking, and same thing. I waited 2 days before to write my speech, and she had worked on her speech for 2 weeks straight.
yeah.
And we both freaking did it, and we both got, again, the same grade. And she's like, this is fucking madness. Like, I have to try so hard. She goes, and it pisses me off that I just see you just do it. Like, and I'm like, I don't know. Like, you made me this way. I don't know. Like,
I mean, yeah. I mean, anything prop star, good job, mom. Like, you made a genius. You made a genius.
yeah, but again, it goes back to I think that also ties into somehow to my attention problem. I have a very hard problem, like, maintaining. If I don't find it interesting, I like zone out. I'm gone.
Yeah,
Like, and so I have a problem with focus.
yeah. And the whole ADHD thing, it's I feel like it's misdiagnosed. I think it's easy for people to go in there and say, yeah, I can't sit still, I can't concentrate, and the doctor's like, oh, you have ADHD. Here's your prescription. It'll
Mhm.
be such so. They're just salesmen. They don't
Mhm.
care. So that's
Yeah,
why I get off that whole victim mentality. Like, no, I don't want any more meds. Y'all don't care about me. I'm gonna
yeah,
take care of this.
yeah. They create customers, not cures.
Yeah, exactly. And that's awesome that you can do that, what you about the speed reading and obtain information like that. I have some friends that could do that. It would piss me off too. I'd be like, just like your
Mhm.
mom would. I'm like, what?
Yeah, yeah. It's I don't know.
No,
Just
that's
do it.
awesome, man. Oh no, that's awesome, man. That's everybody has a certain gift, that they don't realize that they have. But if that's one of yours, that's I think that's pretty badass, to be honest with you, because I have a problem with obtaining information. I have to read it over and over and over. I do better with visual.
Yeah, yeah. I got you. I got you. All right, man. So we're gonna wrap this up. But one last question for you: if Trump does run again and he holds another rally here in Texas, will I see you there?
We talking about the one that's about to happen in Dallas here soon, next month.
Yeah. Well, I didn't know there was one about to happen in Dallas. I'm gonna be honest with you.
Oh no,
But
I just found that today. My friend texted me and I was like, "You're shitting me." And yes,
no.
I don't think I'll get in. I mean, I imagine the tickets are going to be pretty expensive. And there's going to be thousands and thousands of people, but I'll be there.
Oh yeah,
Either.
well, we didn't get in. We didn't get into the last one. Me and my lady and my kids, we went to the last one that happened. Man, it was amazing. There's so many people. I've never seen so many people just stacked in the street in my life. And man, oh dude, it was cool. And there was only like one Antifa like little group that showed up. It was like 12 of them, something like that. And I was like, oh shit. And I'm sitting there and I'm like looking around and I see these big old freaking like Marine dudes.
Yeah,
They were all veterans. And so like I'm talking like jacked, massive. And this dude like takes my little one and he puts him behind her with me and he stands in front of us. And I'm like, guy. I'm like, oh man. I was like, and then so they started getting all what's it called? And I see these guys start like walking towards them, and I'm like, whoa, whoa. I was like, hey guys, I was like, let's not end up on the 9 o'clock news tonight. Let's just
yeah,
take it down a notch, And they were like, oh, but the police came and they escorted them out. So it was cool. No one got into a fight. But yeah, I was like, dude, I was like, no, don't go to jail for this. Don't do this.
yeah. Well, I mean, that's good that they had your back because Antifa, they have special tactics. When it
Hmm.
comes to attacking people, and it's actually pretty sick on how they do it. So I'm
Yeah,
glad that somebody there. That's cool that he did that. And
yeah.
before we go,
Well,
question.
go ahead.
So, what do you think you think that there are more Hispanics, Trump supporters and conservatives that are finally waking up and coming out of the silence, this and that?
I actually do. I actually do because I get a lot of messages. I get a lot of messages from people, and they're like, "Hey, man, I'm glad you're speaking up." Even like back when I started questioning everything, and I started arguing with people. Um, I had like I'd see old friends from high school, and like they'd be like working or something, and I was at like their business, and they're like, "Hey, man, I just want to let you know I agree with you." Like all quiet, and I'm like, man, the fact that you have to say it like a secret is sucks, but hey, thanks. Like,
Yeah, man. For all those are out there. You don't have to be scared about voicing your opinions. Okay, there's gonna be hate always,
Mhm.
but we live in the greatest country in the world. Use your First Amendment right. I know everybody's scared about getting canceled and this and that. And if you're a person of color, yeah, you're probably going to get double the hate, just like I have gotten. But you know what? Don't be scared. That's why we live in the best country in the world because we are able to voice those opinions.
That's right.
There's a lot of countries out there. You can go to jail for voicing a certain opinion that isn't popular, or you get killed.
Ex-
So get about the hate from the left. Let them do what they want to do. If they want to act childish, don't be scared.
Yep. You got the whole other half of the country of being patriots who are willing to
Mhm.
welcome you into the group. So
There's nothing wrong with being a proud American. Being a proud American does not mean you're a white racist, this and that. Like, no, America, we're made up of all kinds of things, but one thing we are uh, united by is by those colors right there.
That's right. That's right.
Oh yeah, man. But I appreciate you taking the time to talk. I really enjoyed this, man.
All right, man. Well, you know what? I actually had a buddy on I don't well, if you follow me on Instagram, I actually had a buddy. We wanted to do a constant thing called the Conservative Coffee Club, where we would just talk like maybe once a week or something like that, and put out a either a live stream or do a something like this, a Zoom call.
Yeah.
So, but I'll hit you up and text you the details when we're done here. But hey man, it was really good to have you on, man.
Hey man, I appreciate you taking time, bro. You have a good one, all right?
You too.